for a few seconds. All right, everybody. Hey, guess what? Disclaimers by Ed Johnston. Ed is not here at the moment, but he will be, even if I have to.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you're here. Well, in that case, shut up, because I got Red Skelton ready, so you're going to be
Okay, go
quiet until
ahead.
I
You
finish
do
with
what you're
that.
doing.
Yeah, he shows up 2 minutes later. So, all right. Here we go. Red Skelton.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. He says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, oh glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance, under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
All right. Well, guess what, guys? We are here, and hopefully Ed has enough of a recharge. You know, these old batteries have a long time to recharge, and whenever you were on a first-name basis and neighbors to the T-Rex, the recharge is going to take a few months. So, Ed, why don't you let them know what it was like back then?
like that. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to get into some commentaries about skeleton, seeing that people are putting more and more together of our country compared to the fantasy we've been indoctrinized to live in. So anyhow, when he gets into the flag, pledge allegiance to the flag. Well, what flag are you doing a pledge to? You doing it to the war flag or the peace flag? See, when Red Skelton is talking about, he's talking way back in the time where the peace flag, the war flag, was we do allegiance to the war flag. We don't do allegiance to the peace flag. And see, this is the one thing that putting this stuff together, trying to get people to comprehend the circumstances of all these things. This is the one thing that apparently I just screwed up my computer, so hang on a second, I got to reopen it. So when he's talking about the flag here, he's talking about allegiance to the war flag. And so the one point is that you have to comprehend the one point of what he's saying here. And see, soon as people start comprehending, and this is like Social Security. Social Security, if people would actually read it, compared to listening to the structure that people want to tell somebody about their feelings, opinion, or emotions, read it. Social Security is only for lawful bloodline natives, proven in the 1937 and 1939 and 41 in the Supreme Court. Lawful bloodline natives. Immigration or not a title. You hear it in the news. Everybody go, no, immigration. They don't get their Social Security. They're not entitled. It's that simple. You don't have a right to come in our country and have our rights. Our rights have our blood on the soil of the ground. So by the blood on the soil under the ground is our rights, not privileges. And so this is the point of trying to get people to comprehend. Everybody wants to do this fighting and, how these poor immigrants. And now, what about your poor family? What about you and your bloodline? See, that's what always disturbs me, how people always get into these terminologies and technicalities, and they want to bitch and argue about shit they don't even have a concept of what they're talking about. Number one, most of the general public has no knowledge and does no research about facts of life. They go by statute codes and administrative rules by some Vatican British administrative rules that are not part of the United States. Now, I'm disturbed when I see these things going on where states are saying, well, we need to pass the Bible and religion into our structure. And I keep going, what kind of freaking idiots are you? Don't you comprehend our forefathers left from that slavery? Don't you realize that you do that, you have no rights, period? So if you want abortion, you don't have a right to an abortion, women. Oh, they can hang you for that one, trust me, and they will hang you for it. That's what the Democrats do. Remember, Democrats are the foundation of Nazi Germany. They are the foundation of KKK. Some real facts, folks. So I'm waiting for my page to come up here, seeing that my computer is working as molasses. But as soon as my page comes up, I want to get into reading you the actual law. Because if you give your Social Security number out, even for a job interview, you can go to prison. And that's what we want to start filing on people doing. We want them to go to prison giving out their numbers. We want to enact our rights, because if we don't enact protecting our rights, your children have no rights. Your children have no rights. Come on, Pelosi and all these people are giving your rights over. I mean, when Obama went into office, I had a $400 a month deduction from my disability check. $400 a month. Because Obama took over and said, oh, we got to give those immigrants some freedom. We got to give the immigrants to pay these immigrants. So the American people lost out $400 minimum a month to pay for the Mexicans and all these terrorist immigrants. And remember, they're terrorists. They're coming into our country. They're telling us how to live. They're telling us to do holidays. They're telling us to do this stuff. And holidays ain't American. That's European. How come people don't do real history? That's the saddest part about the country. We don't teach it. Now, the state of Oregon this year is supposed to start teaching the Constitution. They're teaching the British Constitution. They're not teaching American Constitution. They're teaching the Constitution of the bar exam attorneys. So that way you have no rights. And this is what we're living right now today. This is not a joke. This is the facts and reality of what's going on today. And so once people start comprehending this stuff, it's like, I'm going through this thing that I'm going to send this to the Continental guys, because what really disturbs me, and I mean, it disturbs me when I watch this crap where you got this guy called, they call him the commander, over in Eastern Oregon, over in New Mexico, in jail. All right, and not one of his people are filing any criminal charges. He's been beat up, been assaulted in jail. Did anybody file any criminal charges? Hell no. They don't give a shit about him. Ooh, God says we have to do this. Pray to God. God's going to save him. Pray, God. Who's God? What God? Why God? And that's what I'm going to be bluntly honest with about this one, because everybody keeps telling me, Ed, quit pushing the God issue. Well, excuse me, folks, when it really comes down to, are you men, women, or children? I mean, this guy is in jail, been assaulted, should have never been in jail on a so-called charge of having a sidearm, okay, that they said that he couldn't have one on a crime or charge that was over 20 years ago. Excuse me, folks, how about a reality check here? Time of limitation? Are any of you educated? Any of you intelligent enough to comprehend this reality, that the forefathers put these things in place? It's like Tom or Cruise coming out and say, oh, term limits. Well, in 1781, they already put term limits in. Fact. Do your history. 4 years for a senator, 8 years for a House of Representative. Fact. So when they come up with all this crap that they've been lying and cheating to us and confusing all of us, so that way they can lie, steal, and have their own party structure. Okay, and that's what it is. I mean, come on. Look at the Democratic Party. You guys pay for the parties. You pay for all the crap they do. You pay for the assaults they commit on the general public. You pay for it out of your own pocket. So that's your problem. That's our problem. Okay? And this is the one thing that gets to me, nobody wants to talk about the truth. So I want to get into a couple other things on the Social Security, because when you give your Social Security number out, it's simple. You're committing a federal crime. Because by law, it is illegal to give your Social Security number to government agencies. Do you comprehend what a government agency is? See, that's the one thing most general public doesn't have a comprehension of what a general agency is. A government agency is your elected and public employees, all of them, each and every member. Every contractor, each and every contract member. That includes doctors, lawyers, House of Representatives, all those type of people. That is the one thing that people have got to comprehend, what the truth is on these circumstances. So when it says, the law says that you're not to give out your Social Security number, for anything, you're not supposed to give your Social Security number out. That includes you're not to give it out. So why are you defaming yourself? Why are you giving out your information? See, it's like everybody says, well, I have nothing to hide. I'm just a stupid, dumb idiot. I have nothing to hide. See, and that's what you're telling the general public. You're a stupid, dumb idiot because you're claiming you have nothing to hide. It's not hiding anything. It's called respecting and honoring yourself. Knowing what you are doing to protect you. Does that make sense? See, this is the point that people don't get it. We have to protect ourselves, our family, our bloodline, our country. Our country is what gives us our rights. The Constitution and the treaties, the treaties with the Indians, are your rights. See, that is the one thing you have to start comprehending what rights are. You know, because when they put Social Security in, and FDR put it in under, don't forget, we can't forget the 1917 Trading with the Enemy Act that started the 1933 Bankruptcy Act that gave everybody a straw man account number called the birth certificate. So that's how they're writing it off. And so what they're doing is they're using your Social Security number when you give that for your employment and stuff like that. When they file that with your Social Security, in other words, they're paying you for your job with your Social Security. Because lawful bloodline natives, this country never went bankrupt. And as soon as you comprehend that, if you read the Bankruptcy Act and the structure that I've put out and from Congress and read your own Congress records. Of course, they've been changing historical records. That's a fact. I've caught Kate Brown and them here in the state of Oregon changing historical records in the date because 1846 is the state of Oregon, not Oregon State. And all these idiots out there, and I'm going to be blunt to some of you people because I get your emails and I've been explaining this to you for a long time, and you keep going, 1859, 1859. 1859 is the foundation of the Roman Catholic Church. You comprehend this reality? The Roman Catholic Church, called Christians, Christianity. Sorry, Christians are all one and the same. You know, I mean, everybody wants their money, everybody wants their paycheck, and, you know, when it comes down to it, that's what happens, right? So, you know, and then we can't argue that one because, you know, we've been taught this stuff. This is the way we've been expressed to live. So, but the thing is that proper education. Now, knowing your circumstances with your Social Security. Your Social Security is set up so your Social Security is your number. That is part of your retirement. That's part of the structure that you get off of the Bankruptcy Act. See, you know, I mean, you got to do the real history on this stuff, folks. And that's the point. Most people don't get the real history. They don't want to read the history. They want to go by, and I've been on many talk shows over the last dozen years or so, and I've gone over this. I've read stuff. I've ran for public office. I have been elected in public servant. So when I sit there and watch all these people do this stuff and not paying attention to the truth and reality because they've been so misinformed, so miseducated, you know, and it's not being anything against the people we grew up around because most of them were not educated properly. I mean, when it really comes down to it, you know, you can't blame people, especially in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s when they were growing up, because, I mean, the first time that, you know, what they call their booming economy. Well, prior to that, we never had a booming economy. Say, when they talk about the bankruptcy and how this country was starving, those are foreigners that came to this country. Foreigners that were starving. They weren't Native Americans because we didn't starve. We hunt and fish. We had our plantations growing. Oh, yeah, what a bad word. Not only that, we've had our plantations or farms growing. We survived off the land. All the food shortage and all that shit in the 1900s and all that was the immigrants coming to this country. See, that's what gets to me. How come the truth is not being told? How come people lie to their children? Oh, Christmas is coming up. Christmas doesn't exist. It's like everything else. Come on. You know, we deal with the reality. Man put in Social Security to protect us, the lawful bloodline natives. Please read the foundation. Now, William Jefferson Clinton altered Social Security. I believe that was in 1997, if I'm not mistaken. He was either August or July. Oh, yeah, it was July, 4th of July. That's what he did. So he altered that, and so he signed the payee part of Social Security for the employers of the corporation structure over to the Queen of England. He could not tap into your participation of the structure that what we contribute into it. Congress cannot borrow from it. They do it. It's a federal crime. I posted a law, too, up on that. And I've been attacked on that by some of the public servants because I posted up the actual law that says they go to prison for having tapped into the money. So, and that's the one thing that people got to realize. We do have laws in this country that are there to protect us. But we don't have people that have a constitutional oath. We don't have people that give a shit about this country. I mean, look at the children today. What do they care about? Video games. I mean, it's the same thing. You watch TV programs today. Everybody's on their cell phone. Nobody plays card and board games anymore with each other or has an outing out. Everything's on a laptop or a computer in front of you and their phone. Nobody lives life. You're programmed. And everybody goes, I'm not programmed. And it's like, now you know what programming is. I'm programmed. I'm on the computer right now doing this stuff. My computer's running as slow as molasses. But right now, all of a sudden it's been doing that. Today it was working fine. Now it's running like molasses. But so, you know, that's the one thing that was Social Security was put in place. It was put in place for lawful bloodline native. That was part of the structure before that was part of the give and take, you can sort of say, if you read the history, and everybody goes, how do you do this? Well, I step out of the movie, I read all the structure, I step back, and I think about it. Oh, the pieces come together, how this works. See, everybody goes, oh, you can't do that. You know, it's like right now I'm getting ready to put in my letter for my rights to travel against the county. And I'm putting my letter in dealing with Commissioner Hall. Well, Bill Hall, but now he's going by Claire Hall. And I'll be sending this video to him. He can hear me. I mean, we'll see what happens, you know. Because I'm going to send that video into them, and I'm sending it into the guy who wrote the structure, too, on the rights to travel for the state of Oregon, and said the Democratic Party is the one that's robbing and pillage from the people. The Republican side of point of the state of Oregon cannot charge you to travel and hunt and fish and do all that shit, and that's by the Legislative Council, the main attorney for the state of Oregon. So that was the one thing that, you know, when it comes down to the arguments that these people are putting out there, we got to quit arguing, read, we got to learn. I mean, you know, it's like the guy that's still stuck in jail for the militia, or not the militia, but the guy is actually standing up for our rights on the border that we have a right to do, because I believe it's 1182 of the federal code that says the president has the right to stop all immigration. Immigration ain't allowed in this country. Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico are not part of the United States Incorporation, or they are part of the United States Corporation, I mean, but they're not part of the United States or we the people. All right, because when they talk about, oh, it's a civil case, you got to take that to a civil attorney. All right, well, that's a civil case if you're a public employee, if you're elected and public servant, if you are a registered church member or an immigrant. But if you're not one of those, it's an Article III court. You're allowed to a grand jury trial. And that's what you want. Now, when all these people go, well, they have equal rights as us. And it's like, no, their family didn't bleed on this soil. Their great-grandfather didn't die here. You know? I mean, you know, and then it comes back when you think about all this stuff, and that's why I keep talking about the war flag. And this is part of the structure of the 1917 dealing with the Bankruptcy Act, dealing with Trading with the Enemy Act. See, it's looking at how all these things come together and put the pieces together of how it correlates. So that's one thing that they've done. And it goes all the way back, and that even ties into the 1964 Banking Act, where Adams and all of them, you know, were fighting against all that. And but people didn't realize that they were putting in a new administrative structure, and, you know, and that's where Social Security partly comes from. Because Social Security was originally founded in a structure for the military, for the North, for, the injured soldiers fought in the Civil War. I mean, it's doing research here. It's doing all this research and looking this stuff up. Now, the South had nothing. Now, I'm waiting for people to prove that. I've been arguing this with people actually for the last year. And it's like, no, the North came up with the structure of the military on the structure of Social Security. Part of the foundation of the military structure came from England. We all know that. So when it comes down to this point of what's going on with the Union Army, right? Because we're all union, and everybody keeps going, what's a union? No, union is not a corporation. A union is man, woman, and child standing up, so that way they're not afraid. They don't have to look over their shoulder. We're supposed to be hiring, elected and public servants and sheriff deputies that are supposed to be, and marshals that are supposed to protect us. Police, they're supposed to protect us, but that depends on the way you want to read their contract. I'm still waiting for the city of Toledo's contract. I want to see where I signed the contract where I'm supposed to go by administrative rules. So, I'm still getting denied on that, and I'll be getting another letter off here in the next 24 hours on that one. I got to do that before I head back up to the hospital. But it's like getting this stuff put together is figuring this stuff out, and quit arguing. Now, we have solutions. I try to get hold of Johnny's group out there. All of these people are like, oh, talk to the lawyer, pray to God, talk to the lawyer, and I'm like, here's the law. If you guys would stand up for the law and stand up for Johnny, there might be a change. But you guys don't have no backbone. You're not standing up for him. You're not doing the research. You're not filing the criminal charges. You're not putting a corpus like that case on him. Even worse comes to worse is doing a habeas corpus. Because habeas corpus is British, not American, but under Article 1 court is where Johnny's at right now in the circumstances. That's where habeas corpuses are applied. In Article 3 courts, that cannot be applied because that's an injured man or injured woman, and that's property damage, and that's liability. But they have us confused by the court system, believing one is all the same, when it's not. We have literally two structures of the court system. One is called the Article 1 court system of legislative, and remember, your legislative are British foreign agents that have to be registered by the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act. So please, when you have public employees like this, please file on them. See if they're registered, and if they are not registered, file criminal charges on them immediately. I've been having discussions with people all week about criminal charges. I've been on the phone at least 25 hours just this week on the phone with people on this in a couple of groups. If you don't file the criminal charges, and everybody goes, what do you mean? I said, well, they stole your car? Well, yeah, they impounded my car. I said, isn't that called grand theft auto? Back in the old days, you used to get hung for being a horse thief. And remember, your covered wagon today is still a horse because how do you think they came up with the definition of horsepower? Why do you think when they started putting vehicle tax in and that structure, and the only city that first started it besides Chicago was New York City? And if you actually read the structure of all states that eventually started putting in what they called, what did they call that? Oh, it was to determine the number of drivers on the road. There was no vehicle registration, no licensing or anything. It was just numbers, just to see how many people were traveling at that time. And then what didn't come through were license and registration didn't come through, and the other part of your Social Security didn't come through until the 1940 Registration Administration Act. So when it came through 1940, because remember they started using your birth certificate as the insurance bond for building and developing and paying off the debts because they don't want you to have your income, even though that technically we're not supposed to get a derived income from it, not cars, houses, and all that. We're supposed to get our housing, water, your basic stuff covered. And we put this stuff out. We have it. And the one thing that I do want to recommend, too, is the Lighthouse Law Club. And please go to their banking structure and stuff. Please read what they're talking about. And I'll give them a copy of this stuff, too, because and those who really want a copy of the stuff on Social Security, I do have all that and the laws. Oh, my screen came up. Cool. All right, now I can get back into some of this. I had to get a screen. So, anyhow, but the main thing that comes in is stop listening to all these gurus that are going, Social Security has owned you, and they do if you're an immigrant. They do if you're a public employee. See, that is the one thing that you've got to come to the conclusion if you are immigrant or a public employee. Okay, nobody else could determine that, but basically the court system. Or you have to prove that you're lawful bloodline. You talk to people all the time. Well, how many generations is your family here? Well, what does that matter? Well, it matters. I was born in the United States. Well, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed Social Security. Absolutely not. The only reason why Social Security started becoming a structure for immigrants, and that was Jimmy Carter with the Cubans, because he was shipping the Cubans over here so that way the Democrats could have votes for child support and deadbeat dads and the new structure that they call domestic violence. It's all in the history there, folks. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, Jimmy Carter, it's all on the internet that he did, drawing in, thousands, tens of thousands of, immigrants in so that way they get them registered to vote. And see, when people say the 17th Amendment on registration to vote, that everybody has the right to vote, no, technically nobody has the right to vote unless you're a landowner. If you go back to the original structure of voting, landowners were the only one to vote, and then they say, oh, women didn't have a right to vote, and that's another crock of bullshit, too. If the woman was the landowner, she had equal rights to vote as the man. She was equal. Read your history. Learn your history. Quit going by TV and these paranoid people out there and these nonprofit agencies putting fear into you so they have a job. So when it comes down to it, if they really care, how come they're not taking the write-offs and stuff and making sure people are secure? Oh, if people were secure in this country, oh, that's right, we wouldn't need to have the problems we've got. We wouldn't need especially counseling. We wouldn't need psychologists. We wouldn't need all the pharmaceutical drugs. I mean, and that's the other thing I was arguing with people in the last week, too, with some of the shootings going on in the country. All these damn kids are on drugs. Ooh, the gun. It ain't the gun's problem. It's the mother parents. The parents are the problem. The parents are the fault. Mommy and daddy are to blame. Why? Did they teach them self-defense? Did they teach them arms? Did they teach them the structure of that structure? No. And most parents get their kids on drugs at a very young age. I know. I personally witnessed it through the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s, where all these kids were being put on psychological drugs because they had depression. They had this. Depression. Get her ass out and let them go run and play. Tell them they don't need a bicycle helmet. They kill themselves. They kill themselves. Oh, well, depression is if you don't have a helmet and the cop writes you a ticket, now you're depressed. Oh, I've been told I have no freedom. So, I mean, when we come down to these things that are realistic points of fact, we have them. Trying to see if that screen came up now because I like to read a couple of things on Social Security. Because on Social Security, if you do give even your Social Security number out for a job, that's a criminal offense. And say, people say, well, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't have these things like that. Yes, we do. All right? We do that for a reason. I mean, that even goes back to when it comes down to, let me get into this point when we get into the corporations. See, this is the one thing I try to get into people where you've got to pay attention to the structure of the Bankruptcy Act. Title 28 USC 3002, Section 15. Okay, A. Basically, it is an extra big digging around London. It's actually not part of England. And the Vatican is also sovereignty city. You got to remember, this is the corporation of the British government. Title 28 USC 3002. That's why I do suggest people read the stuff. Don't go by what people saying on the internet. I mean, and I'm one of those people that say a lot on the internet too. I know that. But that's the one thing that is getting correct information. It is illegal for any company, government agency. This is you, mayor, city council, county commissioner, numbers, sheriff, their corporations, okay, committing vegetary theft. You got to remember, they're committing vegetary theft because when they arrest you and take you into custody and do all these things that the kidnapper and held you for ransom because they don't want the truth out. So, and then they use your Social Security number when you get in jail. And see, that's the one thing is that when it comes down to it, when a cop arrests you for, no driver's license, that's committing budgetary theft of services because it's using public funding to kidnap you, hold you for ransom, using your social security number to bill for your jail time. Because remember, all the jails in your cities and counties and states are privately owned. You got to realize they're privately owned. Who owns them? You the hell don't. Technically, we own them. If we file on them, we could claim the interest and dividends. And technically, those interest and dividends of those jails are supposed to be coming back to the taxpayers in tax dividends. They're not supposed to go to the corporation for their parties and their structure and to improve that their Social Security. Right? These guys are making $200,000 or $150,000 a year when you are only making $40,000 and struggling, suffocating, suffocating over bills, suffocating over stress. So and that's the one thing that they want you to do that. Why? It's called job security. So I get into this, people. You got to remember, the House and Senate of your states are there for job security. Why do you think there's all these crazy, dumbfounded laws? Because they're there for jobs. If you didn't have jobs, you wouldn't have employment, so how are you going to pay your bill? Step out of the movie. Let's be realistic production here. So that's what I'm saying. Trump is right. Shut off the border. Wake up, people. If you're not shutting the border off and you're letting the immigrations come in right now without even the economy catching up to itself, and everybody's going, well, it's growing so fast. Well, no, it's not growing fast. The immigrants have no income, so they're on food stamps, welfare, free housing. They've got videos up where they got Muslims living on Social Security disability now with, 6 figures income from Social Security. There's court cases up there that have been flashing all over the news media, CNN, and even Fox put them up. So, and that's the point. Now, Social Security is not for the world. But Clinton was the one who opened it up to the world. The Clintons, remember? You've heard of them? So when they opened it up to the world, that's where Social Security, and they kept on saying Social Security is bankrupt. No, Social Security is $5 billion ahead. What they have gone after is touched some of the interest of the dividends. And that's where, when they did that, $213 million they took off Social Security, the Legislative Council did for the Congress. And technically they can't do it. It's federal crime. I'm trying to explain this to people. People go, well, why don't you do this? Well, when you're a one-guy deal, you can't do it all. So it's like, I can't do it all. Right now I have to file on my life and my case. I'm helping a few others out, but right now, I had an interesting time last January and February and December. Since a year ago, July, basically, 10-something times. Since 2013, I died 13 times. So it's all medically on there. It's out there. It's been proven. It's been in newspapers and stuff. So, but the point being is that when you have your rights to install them, that means no, if you're lawful or legal in your country. When they talk about civil, that's Civil War, civics, which I was glad to see they're talking about putting civics back in the schools, but I want to see civics taught by the real Constitution and the structure that says, if I don't want to pay my neighbor to be my neighbor, I don't have to pay him because the Constitution gives me a right that I don't have to sit there and help him out. If I want to have kindness in my heart, that should be mine. I shouldn't be forced by some Bible, by some religious point of view, by some pope to tell me I have to have compassion for somebody else who's raped, robbed, and pillaged in my community and insulted people, and why the hell should I forgive? Everybody says, well, that's God's job to forgive. I think Clint Eastwood did a movie on that called God is to forgive, I don't forgive. But, the thing is, that's up to the man and woman who has compassion. That's up to them. It's something that should not be paraded in the media. We need to get back to having some respect and honor. So with Social Security, yes, there are forms. I think we have them on new.org and trackers that you can opt out of Social Security, including if you're an immigrant. But that's the point. Don't whine and bitch and cry about stuff you have no concept of what you're talking about. And 80% of the people have no concept of what they're talking about, especially when it comes down to this type of structure. They don't read the structure. They don't read the structure of even the IRS, where IRS taxes are voluntary. You know, I know a lot of people have never paid taxes. I know some people say, well, if you don't pay, you're going to jail. Well, why are we living in fear? How come you're not protecting your neighbor? So you're the terrorist by not protecting your neighbor. You're the one that's a terrorist by saying, well, Social Security is from the Vatican, the Queen of England, and it's run out of Puerto Rico, and then they ship the money from the United States to Puerto Rico, and then Puerto Rico ships the money to the Vatican and the Queen of England. I mean, this is all on their own websites. You know, I mean, it's stumping out. You read this website, you read that website, and all of a sudden you start going, holy mackerel, they're all working together. I mean, and that's what we've got here, folks. So how come you're not working together to protect your family? How come you're not working? I don't care if you like your neighbor or not. It's not the issue if you like him or not, or her or not. The issue is do they have a right to their constitutional right? And if they are an immigrant, all right, as long as they are doing the structure, because immigrants technically are not supposed to be employed, even by federal law, U.S. 81342, immigrants cannot be hired. They can't come into our country and have a job, have Social Security and all. They can't do that. That's not what it's all about. Our country was set up to protect the bloodline natives and the structure. That's why the wall is going up, because we've got 7 countries that are cannibalistic. Literally in the grocery store, eating human body parts, not a joke. Type it up on the internet. Learn. Type in human body parts in commercial industry. You'll be fine. You'll freak out what you really don't want to see. So when it comes down to people saying that when I have a right to get your Social Security number, no, 408, Title 42, 408, you're not allowed to that structure. That includes the doctors. I mean, I go into different medical facilities. I filed my paperwork with administration. And since all this other stuff has happened, I go in and I get respect. I respect them. Something happens in that building, I have to protect the employee before I protect anybody else, because I don't know what the other man or woman or child or even whatever their psychological habits could be. Okay? But, these are judgment calls that we will have to take responsibility and liability for. It's like I'm watching people post all this stuff up on the shootings. Well, Florida just put in a bill that says, and passed the bill that teachers can have arms now. Sweden, I think it's Sweden or Denmark, one of the 2 countries, each teacher has an AK-47. Each teacher has 3 round clips on them, mandatory, in their sidearm. They've never been invaded. Their country doesn't have shootings and stuff like that because everybody's got a gun or an arms. Okay? I mean, people go, well, the Wild West day and everybody had all these shootouts. Come on, everybody was terrified of getting shot, stabbed, because if you got shot or stabbed, you didn't heal right, you were dead. Everybody wasn't, that macho to just die for their so-called whatever. So, when it comes down to your Social Security, you have a choice to cash out on it too, but you have to file the right paperwork. And that is the point, filing the correct paperwork, not what you think the paperwork is. So, and that is the one thing. Like I said, it is illegal for any corporation to use your Social Security number. And the thing is people go, well, they're supposed to know better. They're supposed to do this. And it's like, no, it is your responsibility to notify them that you know your rights. It's your responsibility to notify them if they do this, that the liability is there. So, and then that goes under USC code 408 with the penalties. and for the purpose of payment under, this is your Social Security structure, 42 USC Code 408. So that's what I'm saying. It's so imperative that people read this stuff. We know that these lawyers, and they twist stuff around, but when you do that, always file a Freedom of Information Act, and you can file under the 1938 Foreign Agent Registration Act. But please make sure you do a FOIA request. That is 5 USC 552. That is the Federal Freedom of Information Act law. Okay, and disclosure provides 7 days to respond, right? 7 days. And everybody says, oh, you got 14 days, you got 21 days. I agree with that. I've been through it all. I do know the commercial structure is standard 21 days. But by the USC code, it's 7 days, all right? I've been there where I've given them some leeway. But other point is the law says 5 USC 552, Federal Freedom of Information Act, Federal Freedom of Information law that allows full participation and disclosure, and have to supply it within 7 days. That's the law. That's their law. Their statute, their law. Remember, statute codes and administrative rules are their structure for elected and public employees and all registered church members and all immigrants. Immigrants have no rights. They have privileges. That's federal law, too. And then that gets into the structure with, when somebody uses your Social Security number for anything else. That's federal fraud. So when the city takes your Social Security number, they put you in jail, they use your Social Security number, that's federal fraud. You have to file the criminal complaint, the criminal charge and complaint. See, everybody goes, well, what do you mean I have to file it? Well, I mean, come on. You think a lawyer is going to work as a lawyer and a judge and an attorney? They're all members of the same house. They live with each other. They all sleep with each other. They all share each other. Come on, what fantasy world do you live in? And that's why you always want to ask for a conflict of interest statement. Each and every time you get a traffic ticket or any violation, and that's what I was suggesting to people this last week, put it in the structure so that way you're asking them for it. And, I always find it sad when people say, well, I can't do that. And it's like, I always get frustrated when people say, I can't do that. It's like, where do you get this stuff? Who teaches you this, that you can't stand up for yourself, that you can't do something? See, that's the one thing I don't get where people get where they come from this point. The point is when you stand up for yourself. Now, with your Social Security, you have a right to opt out. And we do have those forms, to the best of my knowledge, on new.org and trackers. We want to make sure you get those forms, too. We want to make sure that if you opt out, you realize that you're not entitled to any medical stuff. There's no welfare when it comes down to anything like that. Because when it comes down to state and federal welfare, that is basically structures that are supposed to be covered under the Tax Act when you buy health or medical insurance and all that. That is supposed to be covered because you're already paying the tax on that insurance coverage. But they keep going, well, we need that money for research. We need that money for this. And it's like they can't use that money for that. You have to go by the law. The statute administrative rule that's written that says they can't do that. Not just because, the Democrat says we can overlook it. Or the Republicans, even the Republicans. Some Republicans are the same way. You can overlook it because they sell their soul. The money coming through that door is more important than your children than you are. I've even had the bank screw me over being disabled and elderly, and I'm told by the state officials, and I'm told by, Kurt and, all these congressmen. The banks can do anything they want. They can rape, rob, and pillage you. They can steal your money. We have no rights to get involved. I have an email from congressmen on that stating that fact. So, even from his own legislative council stated that fact. I guess I'll probably end up putting that up on the website. I guess I will end up doing that. I get these letters from these guys that say they can't do this, and it's like they're employees. They have a right to it. I'm not an immigrant. And so when I prove my status, now all of a sudden I'm getting differently treated. I didn't go and file everything through the court structure and have some judge grant it to me. I filed it in newspapers. I went public and said, hey, here I am. Prove me wrong. Now, if they prove you wrong and if you lied and you're an immigrant, hey, you go to prison. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, minimum prison sentence on that is 20 years. Okay, you don't lie. You don't. I mean, when it comes down to our structure, you know, this is the one thing with disabled and elderly, and these things. They have all these disabled and elderly laws, and how come all these guys or these people in these homes are still being assaulted and criminally harassed and all this shit? I mean, what the fuck? I mean, is anybody living in reality? How come these people are allowed to be criminally assaulted in these homes? And oh, that's right. They need jobs tomorrow, so we need to have more. We need to have more investigators. So we don't investigate the people who are dying in the hospital, and then don't forget Kate Brown signed the bill that says, "Oh, we can starve now if you're mentally challenged, mentally ill, or if you have basically diabetes too." Is the other part. Read the bill. You know, they can starve you to death in the hospitals now. Yeah. If you go, oh, the doctors won't do that, believe me, there are doctors, they like money. You like money. Money is more important to you, isn't it? So, I always hate it when people say, oh, no, that wouldn't happen. And it's like, well, money is important to you, isn't it? Well, yeah. Well, why wouldn't it happen to you? You know, there's very few people out there who stand up, because most people turn their soul over in a heartbeat. So, and it's sad because we live that way. And some people, it's not a choice. It's just the way they are. So, well, with your Social Security, I'm going to open up the phone here, but I want to get in so you know, and I'm going to be posting this up too after the end of the talk show tonight. I will post up all the Social Security links on the Oregon Trackers tonight, and we'll make sure it's up because I want you folks to really read what Social Security is. It's been determined in the Supreme Court 3 times that Social Security is for lawful bloodline natives, not for immigrants. It's Constitution for natives, not Constitution for immigrants. You know, that's the way the original paperwork reads. Now, I don't know what they've probably altered here lately because I've lost so much on my computer and files that were taken out of my home over the last few years, and I used to have all that where it was actually stated that, and I had some of the papers from up the state of Oregon that even stated that. So, but Social Security is yours if you're a lawful bloodline native. So, it's up to you to stand on it. If you're an immigrant, get out of the system. Be smart. You know, don't play the game. You're not entitled to housing. You're not entitled to food. So, hey, you know, survive. You know, but anyhow, with the other circumstances with Johnny, we wish him the best. We're sorry to say that, you know, his people don't get it. You know, been beat up in jail, assaulted. No, we filed assault charges. What am I supposed to do? I can't step in. I don't have his authorization. I've known Johnny for a while, and, you know, but I can't sit there and step in with somebody that, you know, you think about it, you know, so. Anyhow, let's go up the floor. We're going to get into open up the floor.
All participants are unmuted.
Hey, Ed.
Yes.
I know this is not along the lines of like what we're talking about, but if Congress is supposed to meet only once a year, then what laws does it have to meet every day?
Okay, speak up a little louder. I can barely hear you.
If Congress is supposed to meet only once a year, then what law says they have to meet every day?
Wait, say Congress meets once a year, but what law does pass that means that they can pass every day?
No, what she's saying is if the Constitution says that Congress is supposed to meet once a year, then what law says that Congress is supposed to be meeting every day? Because she was noticing that she read that in the Constitution, but she noticed on the news that they've been meeting every day, having these congressional hearings with bar and all that.
Oh, yeah, I got what you're saying, yeah. Well, they're doing that because the other point what they're doing is so that way they're trying to justify their $200,000 a year income for being a senator or House of Representative. Because, see, back in the old days when the Senate used to meet, nobody got paid. And then all of a sudden they started doing a payment structure where they basically got tariffs that covered their expenses only. Only their expenses could be covered, and they couldn't get a paycheck. And then after the Civil War is when they changed that structurally, administratively, and that was part of the Two-Constitution Treaty of 1867. And so that was like saying that the British said, and the Vatican says, well, everybody needs a paycheck. So, and that's why the part of the other structure why they're meeting today is because they're trying to justify their paycheck to the general public, and it shows you when it says Congress is only supposed to meet, and technically they're not even supposed to be paid. And they only have a 4-year term for House of Representative, and House of Representative is 8 years, and the House of the Senate is 4 years, and that's by the Constitution of 1787 and the judicial writings. So, we're on the same point. Why are they meeting? What is all this stuff? But you got to remember, they're meeting there, so they got commerce going, they got gas, they got parking meters, they got food people running around, they got the restaurant open, they got the guy out there with the drones flying around to keep an eye on everybody, so he's making a salary. So it's all based on making the debt structure, making it into a debt structure instead of, because our country's not supposed to be in debt. So they're creating debt by job employment, and that's what they're writing off of the Social Security numbers too. Because when you have a job, if you're using your Social Security number, they're writing your job on your Social Security number to pay your salary. So did I give you an idea?
Yes.
Okay, because that's the point. They're trying to justify their own paycheck. And it's sad. We shouldn't be living that way. I mean, it's really sad. I mean, we can't go out and justify our paycheck a lot of times, but we go out and what we call trade and barter, and we earn our living. We don't sit there and scam our living, because with the IRS tax structure is when you pay, and if you read the IRS code, the only taxes you're supposed to pay is off interest and dividends. So it's like an actor when he does a lot of stuff for like NBC, all the advertisers, when they pay into that structure, he's getting off of the interest of dividends, so he has to report his income. That's why Wesley Snipes got in trouble. Because he's paid by interest and dividends for his job. I mean, interest and dividends came from the sales of the movie tickets. All that comes in the commercial. And then the other side says under his labor, but he doesn't have to report his labor, but he didn't file under his labor. He didn't sit there and separate himself from the corporation and himself being a man. He didn't separate himself. So he was one and the same, and when you're a person, you have no rights. So, but no, that's the one thing. They're not supposed to have a salary. And like I said, they're justifying all these things, parking tickets, all these other jobs. So, I mean, it is, horrific. And people say, well, the economy is doing, all this stuff, and it really ain't doing anything. The economy ain't. We have less food, less housing, and less safety than we did, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So, anything else you got?
Ed,
yeah.
Bouncing off what you said earlier about the Social Security, you said something about knowing how to file the right paperwork to collect on your own Social Security. How would you go about doing that? Do we know how to do that, or is that something you're still working on?
Part of it I'm still working at, but on your Social Security number, when you retire at an age. Now, when they boosted the age up to 72, that only applies to new people who filed for Social Security, not the original contractors. So the thing is knowing the original Social Security number date or when you got your card date. And so it's going by those times of the year of who's allowed to retire and who's not. It's comprehending. Because when they talk about it, they just talk about it globally, saying 72, 72. But people don't realize if you're 62, and they used to have it set up at 59, that you could retire. And if you were in that category of the day that you got the original contract, that's the contract you go by. Because Social Security is a contract, not a government agency. Even says it right there in their own administrative rules.
Yeah, but they're collecting it off our Social Security now, like when
Right.
we go to courts and stuff. I mean, how are they getting a hold of it so quickly?
When you give them your driver's license, when you give them any information when you get arrested or go into any public building, you come up on a chart. It's that quick. Basically, they're already doing face recognition when you walk into buildings. That's been going on for 20 years. People don't realize it, but it's already been going on. So when you have your Social Security, and once you file in your county and you file with Social Security that you're not allowed to use my number and you can't use my number, somebody uses my number, including the city and county, you have to file identity theft. And that's what I've got going right now, is I'm doing identity theft, and then I'm going after them criminally for using my ID.
See, that's what I'm currently working on. I'm as I told you before, I'm still trying to get the information, and I sent that second letter out. I'm just waiting for them to respond.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm still, because I mean that's exactly what they did. They used my Social Security, and even though it was a false charge, I mean. That's
right, and the other point, didn't we put, then I suggest, or didn't they say, you know, who authorized you to use my information? And that's the one thing I like to make a point to that to everybody. Always put that in your writings. Who authorized you? Because they might say, well, you put a signature on this when you came into this building, so that gave me the authorization. Well, did you know it or not? See? And that's the point. You need to know who authorized.
No, but I did add to it because upon researching, I found out that supposedly there was a warrant put out for my arrest that day, and I'm trying to find out. Okay, so who signed the warrant and who authorized it? That's what I added to the letter. Was where's the affidavit, and then where's
right.
Who signed the warrant and where is it? So those are the two things I'm still trying to get from them, because I want to know both those, because they had no right to do any of it.
Right.
So.
No, I agree with you. Like I said, I'm fighting similar on the same boat on some of this shit. Yeah, I'm not getting the responses either, but the one thing I noticed, that when I'm going into public buildings and stuff, I'm not being harassed, questioned, or going through bullshit. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's like, because we're technically not supposed to be part of their system or be in their system. You know, period. We're not supposed to be in there. I don't care what anybody tries to explain to anybody. No, we're not supposed to be in the system. So that's the one people don't get that point. Because if you're natives, you're not supposed to be part of it. You know, so I mean, that's the other point. You know, everybody keeps going, well, we have these rights, but who gives you the rights? You know, it's like one gentleman tells me all the time, well, all right, you got the rights, but where's your signature? Where's the authorization? You say you have a right, but you know, if you do this, that, and the other thing, and I'm going, yeah, I know. That's why I'm getting this thing finished up today. And then once I get this done, finished up, this definitely will be going out on the website. Because I'm in, you know, on his right to travel ship, because this is ridiculous. I mean, Oregon state law says I have a right, and then I'm told if I act my right, I'll be murdered. But I got a county commissioner that's allowed to play dress up.
Ed, I'm sorry, but didn't Janet Reno write something about that? a whole document when she was Attorney General?
I thought she did. I really do think you're right on that. And I remember something about that, and people were not happy the way she turned out with that, because that's when they were trying to force DNA on people.
I remember you talking about it, what was it, October 16th, 2016, in one of your shows.
Actually, that would have been about right, 2016, because I had a letter put out on all that. I'll have to find that again.
Yeah, I went back and started listening to your shows.
So, yeah, no, I mean, I did get into that. So, thank you. But that is a fact. So, we got to look in, figure that one out. Because, like I said, I do a lot of research. That's all I do. But, sometimes, most of it sticks. But then sometimes it's coming back to where, why, and how, and finding the right link. Or the right link to your own brain to remember, too. But this is the one thing that we do have. So, when you're filing these things, file them, and always make sure they're filed in a museum. And that's where most of the I can't think of the name they call them, museum corrugators or whatever. Don't even know the structure. They read in a museum, and they don't even know a museum is only for historical records. It cannot have anything. You can't put something in a museum that is not real. Museums are supposed to be artifacts of history, not of anything that's non-history. So, but yeah, no, I forgot all about that. Yeah, I think I did. I know you popped up one page on it, but I just went through where something happened in my computer, and I lost 20 pages of some of my stuff, so I'm like trying to, I got to go find that, so that's another 30 hours backtracking to put all that back together. So, and then, I'm still having some of my little difficulties with arguing with my computer sometimes. I don't know if it's the computer or if it's the whatever or if it's the operator, but it's interesting how sometimes that happens. So, but the one thing, too, is if you got kids with Social Security, remember, you cannot file a Social Security number for your kid. The child is not 18. So even by the Social Security Act, you're still committing a fraud by putting identity theft of a knowledge child because you're creating false identity. And that's what I'm writing up on this other instrument right now, dealing with identity theft. Because Claire Hall is acting as a woman, but Bill Hall is the man, and you can't change the structure of his original structure. So if he's changing his identity, yeah, he might be able to do it legally, but technically he does that. It's identity theft, and that's the way it's actually written by identity theft laws. So I'm going by what the law says on that one, so I'd much rather do it that way. So, but, they got they got it out there. And it's our responsibility because, remember, it's our responsibility to keep the government in tune. And I posted that up too, was that 1853, where, it is we the people's responsibility to keep the government in check. And if the government ain't checked, that's your local sheriff, your city mayor, whatever. It's our responsibility. I mean, shit, I remember when we used to have the meetings here in Toledo, and we used to have the meetings and we were putting this stuff together. And, it was like, I'm bringing out the historical facts, and I got all these people that are arguing with me but are fighting on the same board with me, but then calling me out and calling me crazy and, putting all this other crap about me in the media, but then they're using my shit to fight their own case. They're using my stuff to battle the city. And it was so interesting watching this going on for 10 years. They had it well choreographed. These guys get it choreographed. And most of the problem that I had was, besides the local government, and still the local government in the county, in the state, was the immigrations that were in my own community, because, these guys went out and married this Filipino or this Japanese woman or something. They went out and married them, and so they're bringing them into our country, and so it's like, yeah, well, then you better make sure that she's got an income, you better make sure that house is off the tax rolls. If it's off the tax rolls, well, hey, it's on your name, you're a lawful bloodline native, only one who can live there is who you allow. I've been through this with these people, and this goes on the last 20 years, and it's like these people cause the problems. That's why Johnny's in jail right now dealing with the border. Johnny never filed. I told him 2 years ago, man, Oregon's going to come after you. Oh, no, I don't have time. You don't get it. And it's like, told Johnny bluntly, you don't get it, Johnny, because you didn't clarify your record. Yes, we all know statute of limitation ran out on his circumstances, but he never filed on it. That's why they went after him. It was simple, because they had to shut him up, because they realized, see, shutting the border down, okay, it's costing the Democrats the votes and funding. Because remember, once they get a birth certificate, registration number, Social Security number, now all of a sudden they can be used in the system. And that's how the Democrats are raiding and running the jails and all this shit. I mean, what is it? 60% of the people in jail right now today in jail should not be in jail. 60%. But everybody goes to me, well, we need a job, Ed. We need a job, Ed. And I said, so rape, robbing, and pillaging. And I was 11. People says, well, I'm religious. Oh, so you support rape, robbing, pillaging, so you got a job. So, that's how bad we are in our society. And then we go back and we go, oh, I'm going to go pray. Pray to what? Pray that you're allowed to rape, rob, and pillage? So, these are the things that we have on our plate today. So, when it comes to your Social Security, if you're a native, you don't have to participate. But if you do participate, make sure you put in the contract what it is. And if you're older like I am, we already did a contract. So the year of that contract is what applies. So, when I started paying, and I do remember this, I started, and people were like, well, you couldn't pay Social Security at that age. I started paying Social Security when I was 14 years old. And that's when I was working for the state of California. I was cleaning election machines. And I started paying for Social Security back then because I knew. And even the guy that came from the elections department for me, Marin County, when I did the election machines there, came to me and says, hey, we got two forms, you want to opt out or you want in? And I had some knowledge, and so we talked a little further. And so, I decided to opt in because I knew that my rights. But I did this at 14 years old, too. And technically at 14, I couldn't sign a contract, but the state authorized me to sign a contract. And that's how what they call, when you're 16 or, you can sign for yourself and stuff like that. So, it's learning how or accepting the positions, because at that point, I decided to start taking responsibility and liability when I signed that. And that's where people got to realize, when you do things, I don't care how old you are, you got to know if you're taking responsibility or liability. You got to know. And I keep going off. Like I said, I went through a couple people on these local shootings here lately, and I'm getting pissed off at these idiots out there because Measure 11, you people don't get it. Measure 11 was off the J. Smith murder. Portland, Oregon, downtown Portland, Oregon. J. Smith accidentally shot or murdered was a 14-year-old kid. Okay, and it was sad because the kid knew arms. And then I'm being told that, nobody knows where the kid's at, and they shoved the kid's body in the back of the garage for a week. And it wasn't until a week later where his buddy broke down at school and told the principal where Jay's body was in the back of the garage underneath a whole bunch of tarps and stuff. So, I get it. And that's how Measure 11 started, because, we need to put crimes on this because you don't need to go to a jury trial, because we had jury trials back then in Oregon. And they want to take the jury trials away so they can work on your Social Security number so they can make a living off you. Because we had a right. It was my brother-in-law, my wife's brother. Been there, done it. So, and then, 7 days, no nothing. Everybody's freaking out. Where is he? And it wasn't until the week later where the kid broke down at school and told the principal where the body was. So when all these people go, we need to do all this stuff, and it's like these shootings at, number one, what kind of drugs is the kid on? What kind of drugs are the parents on? Psychological? You know, because most people who do anything else ain't crazy like that. But only people who are like that are, you know, most of them, 95, 99% of them are psychological drug users. It's all put in all medical records. And they even when you watch TV commercials, and you watch these TV commercials where if you take this side effect, then you could actually commit suicide. You could actually harm somebody because the side effect will turn that way on you. And people are like, what? And I'm like, and then you wonder why the shootings are going on? I mean, I argued with a couple people on the internet this week about the children's shootings, and it's like, damn it, blame the parents, number one. The parents are the fault. Why? Because the parents most of the time are authorizing the school to give the kids psychological drugs, so that way the parents don't have to be responsible. The kids drugged up, so the parents don't have to have time with the kids, so they go party and play or do whatever they want without the kids. Because, I mean, you know, most parents who are going to spend with their time with the kid are going to read a book with them, sit down, educate them, and take the time with the kid. Otherwise, if you're not going to do that, you're just going to give them the drugs, and then you wonder why the world's crazy. I mean, we know why the world's crazy. It's because of what we've done to ourselves and the structure that allowed it for jobs, corporations. So that's why it's so apparent that when they do that, like 408, USC 42408 says, you know, your Social Security number is yours. So you have to file that. And then they're going to say, I've been threatened by public employees saying, well, if you don't give me Social Security, I just went through that the other day. Well, if you're not going to give me a Social Security number, we're not going to deal with you. And they said, fine, then I'm going to file on you. But see, I don't file on them what they think. I have to file them on tax fraud. Because they're what do they do? I don't know if they claim my Social Security number in their corporation, trying to still bill my Social Security number and write it off on their taxes at the end of the year. Oh, that's right. So you got to look at how all the big game plays. Because you got to remember, these people will write it off on their taxes even though they never did service and stuff. But they do it. Maybe you've done it. See, I mean, and that's the point that gets to me about all the bullshit and lies that was going on. So if we're going to lie, let's just lie, tell it the way it is and what we're doing. And yes, we don't have to sit there and be public about it because, I mean, you know, we got enough snitches and all these other idiots out trying to make a living off of everybody else's misery. You know, I mean, that's the saddest part. Everything's based on a dividend. Piece of paper. Remember, and paper is a contract, so even when you hand over a federal debt note, that's a contract. I mean, you know, and your Social Security number is tagged to a lot of stuff, so you have to file for your rights not to use it. You have to file with a private number. I will be posting those structures up on the YouTube, Oregon Trackers YouTube. Read the law. Write your case up. Submit it. And always make sure you do it certified mail. If you can't do it certified, at least make sure it's emailed not only to the city council, the mayor, the secretary of state, everybody involved, at least a minimum of 10 people, the major players, especially the county commissioner's attorneys. Because you want to make sure everybody's notified. If you got a notification, everybody's been notified. And they want to harass you, they harass you. Me, I've been fortunate. I don't get that anymore. I went through that yesterday when I went in the county commissioners because I wanted to talk to Casey for a second. And this guy, Terry, which I'm going to be writing up because I was there the day before yesterday. I'm going to be writing this up sometime here by Monday. And so I'm going to county commissioner how this guy threatened my life and I wanted him arrested. He's a public servant and told me if I didn't comply, I'd be harmed. Excuse me, he's a public employee. He's a contractor. He works for me. There's no reason for him to assault and attack me. So, and this is the points that you got to come up and put these things in. You know, so I mean, and that's the bottom line comes down to it. Now, if these people don't want to honor their job, now we have to start writing these instruments and we got to start uniting and we have to fire them. And if you notice, judges are going to jail. There are people, public employees, that are being fired today. And you got Democrats whining. Everybody's whining, oh, this guy, that guy. But they don't want to tell you the truth, what, why, and how. You know, I mean, that's the main thing. We got to start asking these questions. So, anyhow, I know I got on the path again, too. Anybody else would like to throw something else in? And hopefully I didn't cut you off. Okay. Well, we got no other comments or nothing else tonight. I will get the other stuff sent out, and for those who've got my email, send me an email 3 times. I'll make sure you got the whole structure on Social Security, the foundation, including with the 1853 administrative rules on it. That started with the military, and then Social Security was added in that. Remember, Social Security, if you don't comprehend how Social Security was founded and the structure of Social Security, it technically was founded from, I hate to say it, the British government, called pirates. Remember when the war ended with the British government and the American government, remember, all you knew how to do is rape, rob, and kill, so the pirates were developed at that point, and then the structure goes on with the pirates that if you lost a limb in a battle or lost your life, it was always part of the bounty put away for your retirement or to take care of you when you were elderly, for when you were, lost a limb or something like that, or if you're paralyzed or, you're able to leave your assets to your next of kin. And that's where Social Security was a foundation, and I don't have a disagreement with that one. But that was the one thing that when they proved it was constitutional, because if they did it to immigrants, it would not be Constitution. If they did it for lawful bloodline natives and going back to the Civil War and going back to basically the bloodline, going back to Revolutionary War, then that way they were able to put the Constitution structure. Read the courts. I mean, that's the one thing I know these court documents could be 40, 50, sometimes even 200 pages long. Trust me, I've read them. And, when you all of a sudden you get to the sometimes it takes you a long time to find the key point, but you find the key point in it and you go, ah. So, and like I said, everything has to be based on the Constitution and the 48 states. The 48 states are the Constitution. Without that, if you use the Constitution like these people are talking about, well, we need to alter the Constitution. Once you alter it, the Constitution doesn't exist. They know it. But, just trying to get people to understand, once you alter a foundation contract, you alter it, the contract doesn't stand. It's invalid. So, anyhow, with that, I'd like to say thank you for joining us this evening. Have a blissful evening, and may the Creator, Mother Earth, and the Great Spirit look over, take care of you, and feed you.
Thank you very much for listening to Disclaimers by Ed Johnston. It is currently Saturday, May 11th, 2019, and tomorrow is another one of those many, many holidays that we always seem to have. It'll be Mother's Day, or as I call it, Incubator's Day. So...
That's true. Well, we got to come up with, you know what we got to do? What? We got to come up with a cartoon structure like that.
Okay.
Think about that one.
What,
we can do something like that on Facebook. Could you imagine we put that out tomorrow? How much fun that would be?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I was thinking, what, you going to hire Walt Disney? I mean, come on. You said cartoons. That seems... Oh, wait, are you going to hire Nick and
I ain't hiring nobody. You're talking fantasy. What money you got?
I do not have any income whatsoever. I just got these useless debt notes that they have, and they seem happy to take them, although they always want more, so they want to be more in debt, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So, I know.
But tomorrow is Incubator Day or Mother's Day, whichever one you want. So if you are on good terms with that female parental figure, go ahead and contact them, let them know thank you for giving you life and making sure you were born and not killing you as soon as you were 9 months out and popped out and saying, okay, doctor, I don't want it. It's too ugly, so kill it. Like what they're trying to do now. So,
Minnesota, it was Missouri, I think it was just passed an administrative bill that basically stopped abortion after 6 months. So you had 6 months to decide if you had wanted an abortion or not. And I get where everybody's saying, where they're saying that, oh, well, that's going to be the start of saying we're going to eliminate abortion. But it's like one of those things. I sort of can agree with that one because 6 months is a good enough time for somebody to figure out what they're going to do. I don't agree with they say, well, it has a heartbeat, it's life. No, until it sees light and comes out, under, I think that's USC 1, Section 8. It's called a monster or life. You know, until the child sees life or takes its first air, it's not alive. It's still part of the parasite in the woman. It's her body. It's her responsibility. It's her life. You know, and that's the one thing that people got to remember. It's her life first, not yours. You know, I don't want to hear the question. You know, so
with that,
it's
if you look at it,
so
Ed,
anyhow,
if you look at it, Ed, we are the mothers of the United, not the United States Incorporated Corporation. They're feeding off of us like a parasite.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we have every right, because it is our lives versus theirs, to decide which way they go. But don't take our word for it. To quote one of my favorite old shows when I was a kid, why don't you go do the research, find out for yourself the real truth of it. Remember, we don't take liability for any of your actions that you get information from this little show that we do. We just are hoping to open up some eyes and give you some new avenues to explore. So with that, guys, see you tomorrow. And then hopefully we'll hear Ed cry, "Mommy, mommy, mommy" tomorrow, since it is Mommy's Day. I could always get the bulldog in here, and you'd definitely be crying, "Mommy."
They're not going there.
Yeah. So, all right. With that, guys, we'll see you tomorrow, unless Ed oversleeps or decides to have a medical emergency. You know, he's got these planned out. He always at the times that it's most inconvenient for everybody else, he decides, okay, I'm going to have a heart attack now and be away for about a month. And then as soon as I get back in, I'm going to have lung problems right before the show so that I can have another break. I mean, he's got these all planned out. You know this.
That's an interesting way of putting it, yeah.
So we'll catch you tomorrow, guys. And thank you for joining, and thank you for listening. And honestly, thank you for being awake. Thank you for actually be willing to look at the truth instead of the lies and the pathological scum that they feed us every day. See you tomorrow.